Hey guys, welcome to Grounded, a podcast by Inspiring Time. My name's Amber Card. I do all things hospitality, flowers, name it.
Infusions.
If it has to do with a great party, I'm probably a good go-to on that topic. With me today is Melissa Warnke, and you have been in the candle business now for several years.
Yes.
But welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. This has been a long time coming, guys. We have talked about it for a few months, and between holidays and all the workshops that we both do, and life,
we
haven't gotten that far.
We finally did it. Here we are.
That's right. We put it on the calendar and we made it happen. So high five.
Yes, we did it.
We did it.
Didn't even let the weather stop us.
The Alabama weather.
Yes.
Oh well.
Here we are.
So tell me all about yourself, how you got started, education, family, if you want to do that. And how did this little candle business grow into a thing?
So it is strange to be like, I have a candle company, because that was never anything that I had planned. I went to Auburn after I graduated. Well, I went to Auburn for broadcast journalism. So after I graduated, I moved to Montgomery for my first job. It was at the NBC affiliate in Montgomery. And while I was there, I ended up with like a box of teacups that I got from like an estate sale or something like that. I used to love doing all that stuff when I had tons of time. When I just went to work and came home, that was it. And it just sat in my dining room for several months. And I was like, I've got to figure out what to do with these teacups. They were antique and pretty and
all
dainty.
Different.
Yes, all different. And the cover of Martha Stewart Living magazine that month was a teacup candle, which I don't subscribe to, or whatever you call like actual subscription.
Right.
But I saw it in like a store and I was like, maybe I could teach myself how to make candles. So I just taught myself. It was a lot of trial and error, a lot of messing up until I finally made one. I was like, oh, I did all of this right. So I posted it on Facebook and I was like, look what I did. And someone was like, can I buy this? How much is it? And I was like, oh, somebody wants to buy this candle. So from there, I started a teacup candle business. This was 2012. So I loved going and searching for vintage and antique teacups and sometimes new ones, just depending. And I did a lot of like bridal luncheons, little like holiday shows, but it was only in teacups. Or if someone brought me a container, I would make it into a candle. So then my oldest daughter was born. She was born in 2016. And then my youngest was born in 2017. So I packed up all my candle supplies and I was like, I don't have time for this because I work full time still. And by that time I had left the news and I was doing communications, for the Retail Association. So I was like, I'm just never going to have time for this. And then I pulled it back out like a couple Christmases and I would make candles and post them and people would be like, oh, I want to buy one. So then I only did it at Christmas. And then 2020 happened and quarantine and I was at home and I was like, oh, I might just keep doing this because I'd come off the holidays. And so I made my own Instagram page. I rebranded because it used to be Wicks and Willow after Blue Willow dishes. That's where the willow came from. So long story short, in 2020, it just kind of took off. I started making the gold leaf candles, which this is what I mean by gold leaf.
Love it.
So yes, we can talk more about that. But
and we will.
So it got busier and busier through Instagram. I was just taking orders through Instagram. And then when that got way too overwhelming because I couldn't keep up with it anymore, and like invoicing people and all of that. So then I created a website and it just kind of kept growing. I expanded into wholesale and I do custom candles now, corporate gifts, added a manager and some other people to help because it just got to be a lot to do myself. So here we are. And now I have my own studio space, not a retail storefront yet, but maybe one day.
Do you want to get, so this is very interesting to me because being military, we move almost every 2 years. And I've always said, okay, I either have to stay in this small little spot or when you open up the retail space,
Uh-huh.
then there's a lot more expectation. You have all the new bills that come along with it. And
the
then
overhead.
there is you put a lot of expectation on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, the customer has to be happy.
Right.
So you went from doing like this out of your house or,
Mm-hmm.
A small area. And then it's like, the next step is giant. It's not just a little step.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Is that a little nerve-wracking?
Well, so I still don't have customers coming in. It's just for, candle making parties and where we make them. I would eventually like to open up a storefront. But the fact that I haven't had a storefront this whole time has given me a little bit more flexibility to scale at my own pace and to grow at my own pace and to not have that burden of the heavy overhead that is it kind of chains you to having to sell so much. And sometimes when you focus so much on that, it's hard to get creative and it's hard to do some things that you don't make any money, but it's a lot of fun. And, a lot of people enjoy it.
Right. And
so it's given me a lot of, I don't know, it just allowed me to do some other things, not having to worry about the overhead. But in a market like candles, it's all about the look of it and the smell of it. And so, a lot of people will be like, I really want to smell some of these before, I commit to buying them. And, it can be as simple as like, come over to my house and you can smell some of the scents, but they've never met me. And, it just,
and especially right now, because we're still in the midst of all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And
what do we call, what is the variant we're on at this point?
Omicron, I think. And I do feel like for the better, small businesses have changed and really been able to morph, whether you were already on the online presence or not. And that's where people can see your things. But with you're an actual experience where you need to be a little bit more hands-on.
Yeah.
So that looks really different. Okay. So I'm curious.
Okay.
I love some of the scent names that you've come up with. How does that work? Like, where do you find the scents? How does that work?
So there are all sorts of candle suppliers all over the country, and I don't mix my own scents. Well, I do. I sometimes take scents and mix them together, but I don't start from just an oil
like a perfumery.
And yes.
Okay.
So, there are people that do that and they're very good at it. So I didn't recreate the wheel there. But whatever supplier I order from, if anybody's interested, I love to share. All of that. So just email me and I'll give you specifics. But I like to name my scents based on the fragrance notes that are in it. So especially because people can't always smell a candle before they purchase it. I don't like it when scents don't really describe what they are. So
right, like tea time.
Yes.
And it could smell like
love letter.
Right.
What does that smell like? So if the scent is not labeled with what the fragrance notes are, I just, take the most, not obvious, but the fragrance notes that you pick up and kind of work that into the name. And I sometimes make it like a fun thing. I'll have a bunch of friends over. I'll have fragrances and, we'll take turns smelling them and people vote for what names they like. It's fun. You can make anything fun.
Oh, that's a glass of wine and a lot of laughter, I am sure.
Yes. There was one, it came from the manufacturer as something sexy citrus or something. And someone called it like 50 Shades of Citrus or whatever. And that got votes just because it was funny. But you can get creative and I tend to go towards more masculine, non-sweet. I do like florals, but certain florals.
I kind of like that musky.
Yes.
Not musky. Maybe that's not the word.
Musk is definitely a note of a lot of my fragrances. It's kind of like I don't
know
what you mean.
That's very interesting. I never really thought to describe. One of my favorite scents is actually called Do Not Smack Me.
Okay.
I've not found great candle companies really until, I've not looked for great candle companies just until recently.
Yeah.
When we've connected into such a great female networking
Yes.
community here in Montgomery. So what was my go-to? Bath and Body Works.
Yes.
And they've progressed over the years.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
It is. Yeah. I mean, that's like a different niche or niche, whatever you call it, of the market.
Right.
Of people who just want fragrance, don't really care about
the containers or
the ingredients.
So let's talk about the ingredients, because that is where, tell me if I'm wrong, because I probably am. But to me, that's where having an actual candle maker with fabulous beginning products, that makes the difference.
It does. And that means a lot to me, the ingredients that I use, because I have a lot of customers who are allergic to a lot of things. And so I put a lot of research into the different ingredients that I use. So all of the wax that I use is soy wax, which it doesn't put out like chemicals into the air of your home, like a paraffin wax or some other sort of unnatural based wax. But that does make it more expensive. So like a drugstore candle that costs like $2, it's most likely made from paraffin wax, and it just burns a little differently and reacts a little differently. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, a different kind of wax. The fragrances are where I put a lot of my focus in. So there are some candle companies that, like once you purchase from them, they have like a list of things that they would never allow in their candles. So they do like certified clean scents. So you don't have to worry about carcinogens or any sort of things like that in the candles. This is obviously, all of the chemical words are not my strong point, but it's important to me, one, because I have 2 little girls in the house, and I have fragrance oils galore, and we're always smelling them in our house, and it's my friends' homes and customers. So the quality of the ingredients is important to me.
Well, and that right there, price wise, when people are, it's just like flowers.
Yes.
You either have the grocery store that you just go and grab a sleeve for the DIYers who enjoy putting them together, or you have the floral designer, which is more of what I do. And you actually create the look and the feel, and, you go and search for the perfect product.
Right.
To make that experience exactly what you want it to be. Right. So that's where this is an art. It's not, it's not Bath and Body Works. It's not,
And, there are different sorts of wicks out there, and different wicks react differently in different kinds of waxes. So that's like a whole category of things that I had to learn about. And a lot of candle makers do wick testing to watch how a wick reacts in a certain container or in a certain kind of wax over time.
So let's talk about this trimmer that, do tell why why would you use a trimmer? Why would you use the little extinguisher? Like all those fun things I see now that I never really.
So this is one thing when I do candle making parties, we make the candle, but I spend kind of 10 to 15 minutes doing like a candle care. Right. I don't know what you call it. A little section.
You have an investment.
Yes.
So take care of your investment. Yes.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize that they're not getting the best life out of their candle, especially when someone purchases, a pricey candle. They have a favorite hotel chain or, whatever kind of candle. There are 3 different types of candle care accessories that I sell, but there are probably more out there. But I have a snuffer, candle snuffer, a wick trimmer, and a wick dipper. Which, do you remember that, is it Listerine gum commercial that someone called someone a lint licker? Yeah. Every time I say wick dipper or wick trimmer, I think of that commercial. It sounds like a 1970s bad name. Anyways, I don't mean to go on a tangent. So anyways, I show everyone how all the different candle care accessories work, and how they can help you prolong the life of your candle and make sure that you're getting the best fragrance and best burn and not having the smoke in the air or the soot gather on the outside. So the wick trimmer is one, and the wick trimmer is important because if your wick is too long, it's going to have to burn more wax to bring the oxygen all the way to the top of the wick. So by trimming your wicks every time, you not only have to use less wax to burn, but the longer your wick, it starts putting out that extra soot and smoke. And if you have a candle and it just kind of collects the slightly like black stuff around the edges, it's probably because it was too smoky. You needed to trim your wick. Now, I always tell people, though, if they have a citronella candle, that the smokiness is good when you're burning outside because you want the smokiness to take the scent and get the bugs out of the way. But so I usually tell people to trim to about 1/4 of an inch. And the wick trimmer is nice because once it trims it, it kind of collects all of the black stuff at the end. So it doesn't fall back into your pretty white candle. You can just cut it and then throw it away. And then there is a candle snuffer, which that basically just takes the oxygen out, snuffs it out. And that's mainly for taper candles, because when you dip it in something like this, it gets wax on it, but you can use it like that. And a lot of people just like the candle snuffers to sit out as decor because they're just so pretty. And then the wick dipper is my favorite way of extinguishing a candle because I don't like when I blow out a candle, I don't like the smell of the smoke.
Right.
So I use a wick dipper to take the flame that is burning and push the flame into the melted wax, and it immediately extinguishes your candle with no smoke. And then it has like a little hook where you can immediately sit it back up. So then you have like a protective coating of wax on your wick for the next time you burn it. It'll stay stronger and upright, and it won't be as likely to drown in its own wax. When your candle wick just kind of falls over and you can never dig it out. It doesn't happen, right? And my other tip that it's not really related to the candle care sets, but it is about making sure that you're not tunneling your candle. So when I was saying a lot of people, their favorite candle, they think, I'm going to save it and just burn it for special times. And they'll burn it for 30 minutes, 20 minutes here and there. And you're actually kind of training your candle that's how you want it to burn every time. So if your wax pool is just a little bit around the wick, it will follow that same burn path all the way down. So some people will be like, I have all this wax left on the outside of this candle. How did that happen? So you can prevent that by the first time you light a candle, making sure that the melted pool of wax goes all the way to the edge of the container, and then it will burn down from there.
Now, see, I'd always heard don't ever let them go more than 3 hours or...
That is really because the container gets so hot that like a glass container can explode if it gets so hot. A lot of candle containers are reinforced, but it's nice to kind of blow it out, let it cool, and then relight it if it's been going for 3 hours or more. But a candle like this, to get the wax pool on the outside, shouldn't take more than an hour or so, maybe an hour 15. So.
All right. Wow.
More than you ever wanted to know about burning candles.
No, it's so interesting to me that there's so many things I still don't know. I'm almost 40 and
same for me.
Don't know all the things. Okay. Now something this size, this one has 3 wicks. 6 wicks. Okay. So they're like a magic. For example, if you are looking at different artesian candles and maybe you're like, that's a really big container and there's only 1 wick in there. Is there like a rule of thumb on how many wicks should be?
It's more so about the size of the wick. So whenever you purchase wicks from a supplier, based on the size of the wick, it will say this one will make a wax pool of about 2 to 2.5 inches. Or 2 to 3 inches. So the thicker the width of the wick, the wider wax pool. So if it is just, a big container with 1 wick, that might be sufficient, depending on how big it is. But that's kind of how I determine how many wicks that I want if I want 6 wicks, that will determine what size I need to get in a container like this.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Now you had touched on, what are your favorite or best sellers? And then we're going to talk about gold leaving.
So my best-selling scent is tobacco and bay leaf, which sounds very strange. It doesn't smell like tobacco or bay leaf. You've probably smelled this one. I can't remember. It's
That one is amazing.
Yes, I've had someone who came to a candle party and told me that they grew up on a tobacco farm, and that's what the leaves smell like when they're curing. So it doesn't smell like smoky tobacco, but tobacco leaves.
That's interesting. I grew up in East Tennessee, and we had, well, my family lived on a tobacco farm, my mom's side, but I mean, everything has changed so much. You don't,
right.
Tobacco and all things.
Yes.
But no, that would not at all remind me of tobacco. That smells incredible.
And I thought about changing it over the years, but so many people know it that I'm going to keep it. But that's my best-selling year-round set. The next in line is probably white tea and bergamot. And then my best-selling winter and holiday fragrance is Fraser Fir. But this is the most popular candle. It's the 3-wick gold leaf. So we do the gold leafing ourselves. So, it's a clear container, and we use like a 3-step gold leaf glazing process. So after you burn it down, you can wash it and reuse it. It doesn't, come off with water.
Again, most of my experience is not with probably the best wax. So how do you recommend washing that out? Like, is there
there are a couple ways. If you still have a good bit in the bottom, you can put it in your freezer overnight, and then, that causes the wax to shrink. So the next morning you can pop it out with like a knife or something. That's probably the easiest. But a lot of times if someone brings me a container and wants me to refill it and there's still some wax in the bottom, I just sit it in a saucepan in water on my stove at a low temperature and just warm it enough to melt, whatever's left in there. And then I just wipe it out and wash it with soap and water. But soy wax has a lower melting point, so it's pretty easy to clean out with just hot water. But do not put any wax, even liquid wax, in your sink where it will stop it up. Yes, I learned that the hard way.
And you got to use like a screwdriver as you.
The plumber came and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with this sink. And he pulls out this huge ball of white wax. And I was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, no, I know what's wrong with that sink. Yes. Thank you. How much do I owe you? Don't tell my husband.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, you got to make those mistakes. So
that is
how you learn.
That's an entrepreneur through and through. You have to make all the mistakes.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, that is part of the journey.
It is. And I think part of selling a product too that I struggled with was pricing and I don't know, packaging and brand. There's a lot to making a product and selling it. And I'm still learning things every day about how I can improve.
And I think that's a great tip that we could both pass on right now. I feel like I constantly need a general manager, somebody just to answer messages from all social media platforms, any type of electronic anything. Because there's several different ways. I mean, you could do Facebook, Instagram, text message me. You could leave me a voicemail. You could, email, there's 5 right there. And so that's important. You have to be on top of that. And then when it comes to branding and you're never going to find that perfect brand at the very beginning either. That's an evolution in itself.
Yeah. Have you seen, I don't know if it's like a meme or a quote, but someone was like, I can't wait until all my ducks are in a row before I move forward. Like I just got to grab whatever ducks I can find, just go for it. And that's what I tell a lot of people who are looking to start, their own business. It's like, just do it, and if it doesn't work in the beginning, then you tweak and change. And, you just got to do it because you can kind of hold yourself back for so long trying to get everything perfect. And there are some things that, you do have to have set up. Like some processes, but, just go for it and see what happens. And
as long as you have a good social media, as long as those platforms are set up and then have a good working telephone number, everything else, and email, everything else will start as products start going out the door. You're going to get better photography. I went from having poop photography.
Yeah.
It's still not the best. If I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't grab a picture of this before I delivered these flowers. So I'm like just doing a quick snapshot. Where does that go?
Yeah.
It goes on your stories. That doesn't go on your Instagram feed.
Right.
You're looking for beautiful photos on there. And
that's one place I always invest is photography. Because it's kind of an extension of your brand, really, the way that your products and images look, not just on social media, but if you have a website or wherever.
Finding a photographer that gets you, because photographers are just like, I hear all the time, especially in the wedding world, because I do weddings. They're oh my gosh, there's a million of them and all the pricing's different. And I just have to say, you're basically interviewing them to be your best friend.
They're going to be right next to you all day.
Right next to you. They need to understand if you like the clean and light, if you like the dark and moody, if you're okay with that photojournalistic, like pops of color, like where do you stand and all the things. Yeah. So that's, yes, photography is your brand, and that's how people know who you are.
And I have learned along the way that I really can't do everything myself. And so when it came to like the business license and sales tax and accounting, that was not my forte. Instead, I set up an LLC for all of it. And so I just reached out to friends that I knew who did that. And that once I kind of let go of those things that were really weighing on me, it allowed me to be more creative and, work on more business type things than sitting there making a spreadsheet that I didn't even know what I was doing. So
I still don't know exactly. I have figured out the formula for all the taxes at the end of each month. So I do take care of those myself. But when it comes to year-end stuff, my handy dandy accountant, it's all in QuickBooks and I slide it right over. And then he does his magical numbering, does his thing. And I say, here's your money. Thank you.
I don't know what I would do. Anna Carter, who does my accounting, I mean, she just takes care of it and sends me the documents, and
you sign off.
Yeah, I realized that was not my thing, that I would never be good at that. And so I
great tip number 2 for entrepreneurs, let it go. And if you need to sing the song, it's okay too. Like just the things that you don't do well at the very beginning. I understand we all have to do it at the very, very beginning. But as you start to grow and be seen, then let it go when you can. As soon as you can, let it go.
If there's something you're not good at, find someone who is and let them use their talents and grow their own business too.
Okay. So the gold leafing process, how does that react? Like if you're washing it, do you have to be super careful, or does it, is it all
it goes through two glazings. So I can put it in boiling water and it doesn't come off. But it is not, it is a messy process when we gold leaf everything. And so some of the girls or women that work for me, I'm like, so make sure you do this outside. You don't want any of this to get in your house. But it's kind of fun because it's all done by hand, every single container is different. And I don't like perfection on them. So I don't want any straight lines. I don't like,
it needs to look like leafing, antique, and very like Baroque French. Yes.
So I have fun when I have taught people how to do that, because they get so nervous and they're like, oh, I want to get it perfect. And I'm like, no, I want it to be imperfect, as far as the look of it. And then, there is parts of it that do have to be exactly right, like the glazing and all of that.
Right. That has to be methodical.
Yes. So it's a lot of fun.
So when it comes to your workshops, that part's already done. You're not.
So yes, I only do the gold leaf containers, resell and wholesale, or retail and wholesale. When you come to a candle making party, I have kind of like a shelf of all different kinds of containers, all different colors. Some are iridescent, some are matte, some are shiny, some are not. So you pick your color, and usually at parties, I do a 2-wick container, but sometimes we adjust if it's, like a party within a shopping thing or a party within a store, and we don't have enough time to do a larger candle. But yes, so you come in, pick your candle. You have a tray in front of you with all of your supplies, and you can either pick a scent or you can take some scents and mix your own. And that's been a lot of fun because
Sounds scary.
I encourage it because I have found a couple of scents that someone has mixed together that I've kept around because I thought, I love that. So I kind of guide you. Sometimes people will pick two scents that just I already know will not complement each other. So, I kind of walk them through that and how much of one I would suggest versus how much of the other. So people have fun with that. And then along the way, I mean, it's just fun. It's anytime that there's something you can do around connection, meeting people. And sometimes I just kind of step back and watch people having a fun time and talking. And it's just so neat to know that the candle making process is what brought everybody together for the night.
Well, and it all started with wine and painting.
Yes.
And not everybody, I mean, I enjoy painting. Yeah. I'm not great at it. I'm more of a Picasso than I am like a watercolor extraordinaire.
Yes, more of like a color by the numbers.
Yes, that's nice, especially if I'm drinking.
Yes.
By the end of the night, you're like, whoa, what happened? But I feel like that was kind of the start to this whole phenomenon of workshops with women, usually women get-togethers.
Yeah.
Though I do feel like, and a workshop we've talked about is doing either floral or infusions.
Yes. So, or we could do multiple. If you would like, we can do more than one.
So just contact us to get signed up for that. But I think the men would enjoy the infusion part. Yes. They'll come to find out most men either like their beer, whichever variety they like. And then they're usually whiskey bourbon guys.
Yes.
And you would never touch scotch with an infusion. So if the men were open to being entertained with a new cocktail, then that would be.
I think you can't go wrong.
I was looking at this new, it's not a new smoking technique, but it's new to me because I don't normally smoke herbs to put in. And I was like, interesting. Fire. All the fire.
Yes.
Fire and fire. Fire for the women, fire for the men.
Gosh, I don't know a whole lot about cocktails, but other than I like to enjoy them.
I invite
Isn't
them.
it like an old fashioned that has like the smokiness that you like pull off the lid? And you should do that.
Very swanky.
And men love candles too. I mean, that's one thing that has been interesting to me is the number of male customers that I have. And
it's
they want their homes to smell good too, or their offices, or and I have some masculine scents and masculine containers. So I've enjoyed that. And I even had a candle making party with mostly men. And they were so interested in the candle care portion of it that a couple of them afterwards were like, where do I purchase a candle care set? Because they liked it's the gadgets of it.
The little Zen gardens, you can rake the sand. And you see a lot of especially on movies and whatnot, you'll see the men, they're raking their sand on their desk. Right. It's the same concept. It's relaxing. They're taking care of something. It's not necessarily alive.
Right. The flickering flame.
The pyro in all of them.
Yes, that's probably closer to right.
So then you can get them all sorts of flame throwing devices,
Yeah.
Light candles. Oh my gosh.
My brain is turning.
You see,
what other accessories?
When creatives get together. Ooh,
I know. Montgomery is a really cool place in Picro, this whole river region area. That's one of the things I've really loved about being a creative or a creator is that there's a lot of people that support each other and help each other. And I don't know, I've enjoyed the whole side of that, all the people I've gotten to meet and the events and connections.
I started Bloomin' Time right when the kids were itty bitty, 1 and 0. It was a bad idea. That was not the time to do that, but
there's never a good time then.
No, but 2 under the age of 16 months was not maybe my best idea. But then moving all the time, I just thought I'm not going to set this business back up. But here was the perfect blend of welcoming community, Southern hospitality, genuine, authentic care for what I'm doing. And
people who appreciate that too. Someone loves to support someone who's doing their own business. And so it's a cool thing.
It is. It's very cool. Okay. we could continue.
Yes, we could.
For a very long time. But tell us where we can find you.
Okay.
And then you and I, we're seriously going to nail down some times on workshops.
Yes.
So if there's anybody out there that wants to throw out some ideas on anything with flowers.
We talked about doing like the floral thing in candles, or a couples where the men can do an activity, the women can make a candle or whatever, we can mix it up. Right. But yes, so my website is melissawarnke.com. So Melissa, Melissa, Warnke, always have to spell for people, is WARNKE.com. Or you can just Google Melissa Warnke Candles.
And I'm flashing it up on the screen. Perfect. If you're on YouTube, or I'll put it in the notes.
Yes. And then we do have the studio, which the studio for now is just for pickup. So some people come and show up. They're like, I'm here to shop. And we're like, this is just the pickup spot. We have done an open house there. So I think that's why people get confused. But maybe one day we'll have retail storefront. Yes. And so I have some new things coming up in the spring. I'm going to kind of expand a little to add some products to the business that aren't just candles. Some things that I love, like styling coffee tables. And so some home decor, or like bar cart type accessories. So
if you ever need a flat lay, let me know, and we can totally do some flowers and
I will need that.
Snuffers,
because I'm not good at all of that.
Oh, that's another thing. You are.
I mean, I can do like a portrait mode photo, but that's just, again, there's an art to product photography that I don't have an eye for. So
really want to. And
I know.
I don't have the time to commit to perfecting that.
I look at a lot of photos for inspiration from brands. I'm like, I could do that. And then I set it up and I'm like, this looks I'm missing something.
It's the lighting.
It is. Yeah. And I think it's the camera too. And like the depth and the lens, and
it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Invest in that. For sure.
Yes.
Okay, guys, if you don't follow me, it's Inspiring Time, THYME, like the herb, for the blog. I've not been super active there because the world is doing its thing around me. Yep. And then Facebook,
all the things.
Facebook and Instagram are both Inspiring Time. And that's me.
Yes, thank you so much.
My gosh.
Did we really talk for what time is it?
I don't
Didn't we just start this?
We
have to do this again sometime.
Yes. And we'll go down a whole different rabbit hole.
Yes. I would love that.
In fact, I think most of the women I've talked to about their business specifically, I think it'd be so much fun to do like just a round table.
Yes.
Us getting together.
I would love that.
So much fun.
But yes, thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Well, guys.
And thank you for the mimosa. That was a nice little treat.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
We all know I have a mimosa in hand or something while recording that makes it way more calming.
Yes.
So thank you.
You're very welcome.
And we'll be listing all those workshops and time frames soon. It will be by the 1st of February. We'll have a good grasp on what's coming up. So guys, until then, we'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.